Hey gardeners, Lindsay here with the Mindful Living Movement, and today I've brought some of my succulents outside that I'm about to give a nice refresh to. And because succulents are such a popular house plant, I thought I would just sort of share with you why I'm doing what I'm doing to each of these guys. There's sort of actually a variety of reasons that these made the list as far as the ones that I want to kind of make look a little nicer. So the first, I think probably one of the most common things that happens to a lot of succulents, and especially if you're new to succulents, you might wonder, should I leave it? Should I let it keep growing? Is when they start to get really tall and they lose their bottom leaves. So this is totally normal as succulents age. If they're cared for properly, they're going to lose a little bit of their bottom leaves. They're not going to lose all their leaves. And this particular succulent, this is sort of just what it does. It only ever really likes to have a couple of inches, I find, on the top. And you can see I haven't even really cleaned up the old leaves very well. So what I like to do with this one is I'm going to actually just literally chop the top right off of some of these ones that are really tall. And I'm going to leave the bottom part in the dirt. I'm going to actually put this whole thing into a bigger pot, and then I can take the top and I can just shove it right back down into the dirt. And you can see this one even has gotten a little bit root bound as well. So even succulents do get root bound. If that is the case, usually it's a good idea to sort of bump them up a size. But again, mostly a lot of times we see this sort of the stem getting a little bit bare on the bottom, and that's one of the probably the most common reasons that a lot of people like to repot. So literally chop its head off, maybe remove a few bottom leaves so that you can really pop it down into a new pot of soil, and the roots will start and it'll be off to the races. And then the stump part that's left is going to start to spit out new growth for you, which is kind of cool. That's how I've ended up with so many of these guys. And that's what is going on here. So I've got a bunch there, as you can see, a bunch more root bind happening in this one. And there's a couple of holes in the front of this one. So what I'm probably going to do is just freshen up the dirt in this pot, and I'm not going to add anything extra to it just because it is already got a little bit cozy in its pot. So what else might you want to look at? So something like this it's been flowering forever. It's still flowering, but it's starting to look really sad. So the flowers are pretty cool. They're these beautiful orange things, and it's literally, this whole thing has been flowers. It did this kind of almost all early spring, winter kind of, but I don't really like the looks of it anymore. So I'm going to cut this off, and I'm actually going to cut the end off of this, and I'm going to pop them into some soil so that I can just kind of use these. And same thing with this. I'm finding that things inside the pot are just getting a little bit crowded, so I'm probably going to divide a little bit and spread them out throughout some other pots. So both of these pots I do really like kind of the looks of, but there's another one of those flowers that's starting to get a little straggly, so I'm going to definitely remove that. This one, we've got, again, more root bound here. So I'm actually not going to really change much about this other than just stick it in a bigger pot and give the dirt a bit of a refresh. Same thing, this guy, I'm actually not even going to do anything with it. There's only one tiny little root sticking out the bottom for right now. I'm just going to leave this one be for a little bit longer. Succulents generally are okay being root bound if you have them and you're kind of good at sort of managing watering. I have these sitting on a really hot sunny windowsill, and I'm also a bad plant mom in the sense that I don't really water my succulents hardly at all. So for me, it's usually better to give them just a little bit more dirt so they could sort of have a chance of having a little bit extra moisture balance. So that's sort of one of the decisions that I'm making. And if maybe you've just had a plant in the same pot for a really, really, really long time, it may just be time to do a refresh of the dirt anyways. Otherwise, maybe it's still looking healthy. That is something that I will be doing today to a few of my other plants, is just sort of going through and doing a dirt refresh. The plants that are root bound, I'm going to be moving into different pots. Some of the plants that have gotten really tall and sort of, there's no leaves on the bottom, chop their heads off, and I'm going to plunk them into different pots. And once I do cut the head off of some of these, is so these little guys will probably take off a little bit better because they're being shaded by the big one. I might only add in maybe like 1 or 2 other little succulents just to fill it in and give, you know, the stem some chance to regrow, but then also these little guys a chance to take off. And then I have one big beautiful succulent to sort of pop maybe in the center of a different pot somewhere else. Now you might be wondering what kind of soil you should be putting in your succulents, and traditionally a cactus soil is going to be the way to go. You can buy it literally bagged mix, calls itself cactus soil to keep it super easy. You can also make your own, and really it's just a lot of sand, a lot of perlite vermiculite so that there isn't a lot of moisture holding capacity. It's like almost like 1/3 or so is potting soil and the rest is just really quick draining materials. Sandy desert-like conditions is what we're trying to replicate. I have actually kind of shifted myself slightly away from planting in a full cactus soil, and that's just because I know I like to just leave my plants in a hot sunny window all season long, even in the summertime, and I tend to underwater slightly. So that means that I just put a little bit more potting soil in my mix so that my plants have a bit more consistency in their moisture, and they tend to be a lot happier for a lot longer. They're not dropping leaves because they haven't been watered in a really long time. And succulents are a little bit trickier on the watering because they're used to getting quick shots of water. You know, think desert and then all of a sudden like flash flood. You know, they don't want to sit in water. They want to just be able to get quick water, fill up their leaves, and then that's how they are. And then they've got their little water reservoirs. So looking at the leaves on your plants, so the leaves that are really fat, the really thick ones, they hold water longer. These plants are not going to need to be watered as much as something that has a thinner leaf to it. So that's going to also be sort of something that you want to gauge a little bit. Whatever your routine is, you're probably going to want to water this guy almost maybe twice-ish more than something like this. So just a hot tip for you, if you're not quite sure what's going on, you're watering everything the same, but they're behaving differently, they're not all the same, unfortunately. So just sort of take that into account. So I'm guessing you're watching this video because you like to fill your house and your life with plants. And if you also maybe want to turn some of those plants filling your house in the wintertime into something you can eat, then you should definitely get on the wait list for my upcoming indoor growing course. This is literally going to be how to grow food indoors over the wintertime. So you can sort of feed that need to fill your house and life with plants, but then also be able to eat them in the end, which is really kind of cool. I mean, these succulents are great, but they just sit there and they don't really do a lot for me, and they kind of fall to the bottom of the priority list. My food plants, I always give them my more time and attention. So if you want something that you just get to sort of be more present with, definitely get on the wait list so that you can start growing some of your own food indoors. And if you found this video helpful, hit that like button. If you are keen to just, you know, follow along and learn more gardening indoor and outdoor, hit the subscribe button. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day, gardeners. We will see you soon.